Chicago. Beginning Monday, the party holds its convention at the United Center where they will officially nominate Kamala Harris and Tim Walz to the presidential ticket. Organizers there have been busy preparing for thousands of delegates and politicians, as well as protesters. Ed O'Keefe is in Chicago. Ed, good morning.
Michelle, great to see you. You know, Chicago this coming week will host a political convention for the 26th time, more than any other American city. And while there are concerns about gridlock and protests, Democrats in this state are eager to help Vice President Harris make history.
The stage is set. The security is in place. And Chicago is bracing for the crowds.
So is the city ready?
Yes, we are ready.
Mayor Brandon Johnson says he hopes his city can strike a balance.
And so we're going to protect those individuals whose voices are being heard to make sure that they're safe. But we're also going to make sure that we have a vibrant, energetic, exciting convention that's going to launch, again, a history.
This is the only reason why I don't know what will happen with the Palestinian protest, because, like, the mayor is pretty pro-Palestine.
Maker into the White House.
Will you be a part of the protest, or will you just be sucking off obezi like Obama? Nah, dude. If I see the protest, I'm gonna kick them. That's my plan. My plan is, if I see protesters, I'm gonna be like, I'm talking, sweetie. Okay. I'm gonna talk to the protesters and be like, sweetie, I guess it seems like you want Trump to win. Yeah. I guess it seems like you want Trump to win, sweetie pie. Chat, is he for real? Oh, Jesus Christ, dude. Chatters are so broken. I will never. This is why I have so many fucking haters, dude. Like, in a lot of instances, obviously it's like hard to pick up on my sarcasm, but like, dude, I get it. Like, I know it's hard to pick up on sarcasm, but like, how, like, there are certain things that I have done leading up to this very moment. Like, I didn't just appear on your screen devoid of context. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't just appear in front of you devoid of complete context. Like, you have to at least know a little bit about my background.
Vice President Harris is set to arrive in Chicago Sunday night after a campaign bus tour across western Pennsylvania. She spent the last several days writing her speech. She'd already been writing one to accept her renomination as VP. Now she'll headline a convention originally intended to focus on President Biden.
Joe Biden is really one of the great presidents.
He's so handsome. He's such a handsome lad, dude. I love him. Big boy.
Illinois Democratic Governor J.B. Pritzker agrees with polls showing Harris.
JB, defend the Palestinian protesters, please. Don't hurt my soul like this. I can't. We got big boy solidarity up in this bitch, JB. Don't do it.
Has re-energized their party.
Kamala Harris brings a different angle on the Democratic Party and makes sure that we bring the excitement and joy to the party that I think people weren't really feeling because they felt like we had two older guys who were running against each other.
It's all set to begin Monday night with a tribute to Biden and a speech by former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. On Tuesday, former President Barack Obama is the headliner. Wednesday, it's former President Bill Clinton and vice presidential nominee Tim Walz. Thursday is Harris's big night.
Harris has been working on that speech for weeks, expected to be working on it right up until she delivers it. It is, of course, the biggest moment of her political life. As for the Republicans, they are not taking a rest while Democrats meet here in
a preview of the my favorite CBS Sunday Morning with that fucking classic, like 80s filter. God damn. Can we skip day one? Wait, why? Can they skip day one? Are you opening for Biden or Obama? I didn't see you on the schedule. I'm opening every day and I'm closing every day. They wanted me to speak every day. They were like, hey, Hasan, you are the #1 defender of the Democratic Party. You obviously very clearly have our interests in mind over anything else. You have no ideological convictions that may put you at odds at times, maybe all the time, with the Democratic Party's agenda. And therefore, we want you to always be at the forefront. Yeah.
This week at the...
Why not at Streamer Games? Because I was at a bachelor party, 47-month subscriber. I was at a bachelor party yesterday. And today I'm flying out to Chicago.
To
speak at the Democratic National
Convention. Vice President Kamala Harris will formally accept her party's nomination for president. The fact that her historic candidacy will be officially launched in Chicago has a special significance, as Robert Costa reports.
Chicago. Perhaps no city has been more connected with the Democratic Party. And this week, Chicago will host its 12th Democratic Convention, nominating Vice President Kamala Harris and her running mate, Governor Tim Walz. To talk about the new ticket and this old school.
Just letting you know, you would have destroyed the competition at the Streamer Games. Really? I feel like there's some athletic people there.
City.
Well, I'm Irish, so corned beef sandwich.
We naturally had lunch with a Daly.
What kind of case do you think she needs to make to win this November? What does she actually need to do?
I think she has to lay out a vision. She has to show who she is as a person and kind of what she believes. Not so much the litany of specific positions on issues, but sort of a sense of who she is and what does she believe in.
Bill Daley, who has spent his life in Democratic politics, met us at Manny's Deli, a spot beloved by Chicago's workers and its politicians. The memory of Daley's father, the late Mayor Richard J. Daley, still looms large in Chicago. In 1968, at the height of the Vietnam War, the city hosted the Democratic Convention. That year, like this year, the incumbent exited the race.
I will not accept the nomination of my party for another term as your president.
This is a generous...
Remember when they tried to rush the ballot to force Biden to be the nominee? Yeah, I do remember. Remember when I was, once again, completely right about that? Alongside many of the other things that I'm still advocating for. Okay.
And that year, like this year, violence marred the campaign.
On to Chicago and let's win there.
At the turbulent convention that August, Bill Daley was at his father's side.
What was it like, though, to be inside the cauldron when it's boiling over?
It was crazy.
Outside the convention hall, there were bloody confrontations between police and anti-war protesters.
Yeah, except back then, cops, this is their riot gear, bro. This was how the normal kitted out cops looked like when they were in riot gear, with batons and a helmet at most. Now, the average beat cop has more than this, okay? Especially when you, especially when you factor in the riot gear. Holy fucking shit.
Putting Mayor Daley in the spotlight.
Ever have any regrets years later about how that all played out in '68?
If he did, he didn't express them. Look at it, he didn't like it. He didn't like what happened. You know, he didn't like the rap to Chicago. But you know what? He didn't look back.
This week, there are planned protests of the Biden-Harris administration's handling of Israel's war with Hamas.
This city seems to have been bracing for protests. What do you expect on the streets?
There'll be protests. There'll be a lot of protesters. I don't think they'll be out of hand. You know, it's not the 60s.
The convention's key speaker on Monday night is President Biden.
How are Democrats going to handle that, showing some respect for him, but also recognizing it's still the Harris Convention?
I think there's going to be enormous emotional reaction to the president's being there. I think that place will be rocking.
Harris will accept the nomination on Thursday, setting the stage for a showdown with former President Donald Trump.
All of a sudden, the cards have all been reshuffled, where he's the older guy and she's the young new generation. And that's a pretty powerful message, too, just that alone.
Many Democrats hope this crossroads will have echoes of another Chicago gathering, when in 2008 Barack Obama became the first black American to win the White House, where Bill Daley later served as his chief of staff.
It's been a long time coming, but tonight, because of what we did on this day, in this election, at this defining moment, change has come to America.
He was totally different from anybody who had ever run for president. Everything about his candidacy was change. He just exuded change, difference.
We love our country.
For Harris, there might be a balancing act. She is at once new to many Americans, but already in power.
But she is an incumbent vice president.
Yeah, I know, but all due respect to vice presidents, they're really not known by the American people. The job itself kind of dictates you play second fiddle.
Vice President Harris casting herself, it seems like the change candidate. Is that how you see it?
Absolutely. It's just like Barack Obama did.
Look at that artist, Shepard Fairey, who did the Obama Hope painting years ago. He just came out with a new one with Harris, Forward. Among Democrats, this excitement that
absolutely. The thought of the first woman.
I mean, even the fact that they're still going with fucking with Shepard Fairey with the same format, like that's not a good. That is. Oh my lord! Who knows?
Being president is awfully exciting. I have 3 granddaughters. They're incredibly excited.
That excitement, Bill Daley cautions, will soon be tested by the reality of a brutal campaign.
The Electoral College is very difficult for a Democrat. You almost have to.
Welcome back to the Big Weekend Show.
Upwards of 100K anti-Israel agitators expected to swarm Chicago during the DNC. Fox News is like on the one hand excited at the prospect of chaos unfolding at the DNC, but also have to be unconditionally loyal to the Israeli state. So they're in this like unique predicament where on the one hand they're like, oh, it's sick that like there's a lot of chaos going on, but also simultaneously they're like, oh man, anti-Israel agitators. I mean, at least they didn't say pro-Hamas terror lovers or whatever that are like the type of shit that you're gonna hear from mainstream media. Oh God, I really hope that they don't fucking go this crazy on the type of shit that you are going to hear from definitely Fox News and most likely MSNBC and NBC and others as well about like how Iran is paying these fucking Hamas loving Jew hating jihadists. They are going to be straight up Bill Maher on the main. Okay, they're going to be operating with Bill Maher attitudes. Here is Trump, by the way, this past weekend. This is what he said.
We will deport the foreign jihad sympathizers, and we will deport them very quickly, and Hamas supporters will be gone. If you hate America, if you want to eliminate Israel, then we don't want you in our country. We really don't want you in our country.
Wait, what do you mean if you hate Israel, we don't want you in our country? Like, what does that mean? Also, deport where? What are they going to deport you to fucking Gaza or something? Like, what do you mean? I am Hitler and I will deport U.S. citizens. Trump. Yeah. It's just insane. Fox News is going to post a clip of you walking downtown Chicago and say HasanAbi showing up to the DNC early to organize the protest. If Trump offered you back shots, would you do it? Like I get to give him, like I get to fuck him in the butt. Maybe. Possible suicide bomber sent by Hezbollah that prematurely detonated its explosives tonight in Tel Aviv may have been part of Hezbollah's response that went wrong. They have done this before. Dem staffers already trying to make her messaging worse. What is going to unfold in front of our eyes over the course of this upcoming week will be very telling for what remains of the election cycle. We got like 70, 79, 78 days remaining. You will have a DNC filled to the brim with Democratic Party officials, loyalists, talking about how great things are and how great things are going to be. And there is going to be thousands, hundreds of thousands of pro-Palestinian protesters demonstrating, and they might get their ass beat by a brutal police force. This will only continue to grow if the Democrats do not figure out a way to restrain Israel. Okay? If the Democrats do not figure out a way to restrain Israel and instead hit the Hillary Clinton lines and turn around and consistently talk about how anti-Semitic the Democratic Party's like protesters are, or whatever, the anti-Israel protesters are anti-Semitic, blah, 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 they will get cooked. No way there will be that many. We'll see. I saw on Twitter a few strategist leaks, them pushing a few talking points for pointing out how cruel mass deportations are, saying secret police door-to-door internment camps. All I could think was, oh, they just watch Hasan. Good. But if they watch me, they should also know that this is going to be a major problem. I've been literally fucking nonstop talking about this, okay? I've been talking about this non-fucking stop. It's not going to go away. They think, oh man, it's going to go away. It's going to go away. It's going to go away. We're going to be like super brutal. We're going to nip this shit in the bud. It's not going to go away. The more hostile the resistance to anti-genocide protests are, the more resilient the anti-genocide protesters will become. Okay? You do not want that. You do not want that to be the driving point of contention. I'm shocked they haven't hit on it yet. Like, why save it? Maybe bigger impact after Labor Day. I don't know. Same with Israel stuff. Why wait? How fucking insane is it that the Zionist platform is literally just, if you don't support this foreign country of which you have no connection to wholeheartedly, you will be fucking deported? Yeah. Are you a secret DNC operative? If I was, okay, if I was a secret DNC operative, you would hear very different lines of communication and very different moves going forward in terms of America's foreign policy. Okay? If I was working for the fucking DNC, I would literally be every day getting candidates to be like, why the fuck are we giving unlimited genocide dollars to Israel? Why don't we just use that on our own fucking citizens? Why don't we use that to build roads? Why don't we use that to harden our infrastructure against climate change that is already gutting through all of these fucking red states that refuse to reckon with it? Okay? That refuse to recognize it completely. Why the fuck are we spending so much goddamn money on our military? Those guys don't want to fucking be there either. These are like young men and women. You already say that shit. I say that shit. I'm saying the Democrats would start saying that shit.
I will ban refugee settlements.
Use weapons on our citizens instead. Got it. Yeah. Omera brain. I said, why do we give all of our dollars to unlimited genocide instead of our own citizens, using it on our own citizens? American brain goes, oh, you mean there's only one speed. We just have guns and nothing else.
From terror-infested areas like the Gaza Strip, and we will arrest the pro-Hamas thugs who vandalize federal property and make really life very, very difficult in this country for a lot of people. When I'm president.
Anyway, that was one aspect of this that we didn't really there's also this. There's also this situation, which is like kind of lame overall. Like, this isn't even that good. I feel like he used to post better. Are you still going to be working with Ryan Graham? Very excited for that. He's so uniquely positioned to give an advice on holding power to account. Yes. Thought for a sec, did he really pause for a long time after when I'm president before I realized you paused it? Yeah. Yeah, Democratic Party's platform is like literally fucking pure communism all the way, all the time, nonstop. Ceaseless communism. Communism will not halt. Okay? Communism only going forward. You already know, baby. Also, here's another fucking insane tweet from the psycho. If you're a woman, you can either vote for Trump or wait until one of these monsters goes after you or your daughter. Euro posting, Eurofascism, alive and well in the United States of America. Crazy shit for the president to be retruthing. Welcome back, Adolf Hitler. There you go. I know Euro racism when I see it, and that's an average fascist talking point in Spain. No, I know. All right, let's see. Let's see
this chaotic scene of anti-Israel.
Honestly, that's such a bad take, bro. No, the bad take is literally the two-parter debates that you try to do at the top of the hour, which will cause you to get a one-day ban. Okay? At the top of the hour, there's a 3-minute ad break. We have already punished double-parter baiters, okay? And you are currently engaging. Halt. Cease your activities right now. Cease your activities right now. Oh, no, I meant Trump's take. Oh, shit. You were literally about to get fucking banned. I'm going to give you a second off anyway. I still fired him. Okay, I still fired a 1 second ban. 1 second. Coming at me like that. He was innocent. That's why he got 1 second only. That's a near miss. He almost got a day off, dude. Stop. You violated the law. At the top of the hour, there's still a 3-minute ad break. If you no longer want to see those ads, all you need to do is subscribe, which you can do for $5 or $6, sorry, or for free with a Twitch Prime by connecting your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account. You can get gifted a sub if you're lucky as well. Here's the 3-minute ad break now.
Protests in New York City this week is nothing compared to what is expected in Chicago for the Democrat National Convention, when upwards of 100,000 agitators.
Qatari Cat, thank you for the 100 gifted subs, dude. Qatar is crazy, dude. We got the Qatari Dancer, we got Qatari Cat, we got the emissaries in the building. My Oilers are direct Oilers.
Are set to descend on the Windy City. Fox News correspondent Mike Tobin is live in Chicago tonight. Hey, Mike.
Hey, Griff. With memories of 1968, Chicago is now holding its collective breath, hoping to
Spittin' Nichols, thank you for the 5 get this up.
Get through this convention peacefully. The pro-Palestinian coalition to march on the DNC is expected to be the largest group that will show up protesting at the convention. Members of that group don't like President Biden. They call him Genocide Joe. They don't like Vice President Harris. They call her Killer Kamala. The group opposes U.S. funding of the Israeli Defense Forces. They got some wins in recent days. They won the right to march within sight and sound of the convention. And just yesterday, under pressure from the protest group, the city agreed they could set up a stage and loudspeakers at Union Park where their march will begin and end. In nervous anticipation, businesses in the West Loop or near the convention center have been boarding up. One business owner tells us he was looted during the George Floyd riots, then looted again. And he says the city is not communicating with him enough to make him feel confident. So the boards went up out of an abundance of caution.
Our customers and our customers' employers have told them to stay home for the entire week. So we felt since they were concerned about the safety of their people, we should be concerned about our safety.
Police officers are being pulled into service from all over the state of Illinois, even Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Each of the officers has to undergo 12 hours of crowd control training. The head of the police union here in Chicago tells me that this convention is going to draw manpower away from other parts of the city. The criminals are going to know that, and they're going to exploit it. Griff, back to you.
So here's a question many are wondering about. Will Harris's wild policy flip-flops
already being sent selfies from friends with AOC? Chicago's on fire, baby. Yeah, people have already started storming the streets of Chicago. A lot of Democrats are already there. Uncle Jank is there. I'll be there later today. You already know, baby. All right. Will you be doing content with PFT commenter while in Chicago? Is he going to be in Chi-Town? Is he going to be in Chi-City? I will do content with anybody and everybody, okay? But probably I will end up doing content with nobody because I will be doing content for you. I only serve one master, and that is my community.
to be acknowledged at the DNC convention next week. First, there's her stance on fracking. She made this promise when she ran for president in 2019.
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking.
But now, according to her campaign, she doesn't support a total ban on fracking. Then there's Kamala's vow to let illegal immigrants run free 5 years ago.
I want to know, when you become president, would you be committing to close immigration detention centers?
Absolutely, on day one. On day one.
Fast forward to 2024, her campaign says she promises to, quote, go tough on border security. And what about her push for single-payer health care? This was in 2019.
Who here would abolish their private health insurance in favor of a government-run plan? Yeah. All right.
But this week, a Harris staffer told CBS News that she would not push a single-payer system. And there's her gun buyback backtrack. 5 years ago, she said she wanted the government to confiscate guns.
We have to have a buyback program, and I support a mandatory buyback program.
But it's a different...
I hate a lot of this stuff because it's like, it's all the cool shit that she, like, obviously didn't have any loyalty towards, but, like, just simply was running on. That she now simply does not run on, which I think she should. Like, can you imagine? Oh, God, the main point of contention being that, like, Kamala Harris wants to give everyone health care. Can you imagine that would be, like, the major talking point from the Republicans being like, Kamala Harris wants to give everyone health care? Oh, that's so sick.
Story now. Her campaign told the New York Times she supports Biden's...
Hey, I've been trying to all right, let's skip this.
Tonight, Chicago's guard is already up.
Calling him Giannis proves you're a fake fan. Yeah, Giannis, my bad, bro. Listen, he's Greek, okay? The Turkish jumps out sometimes. I apologize. It's just like he should have come to Turkey instead. Okay?
Fencing lining the streets, roads closed off to vehicles. A large protective zone built around the United Center, where Vice President Harris is set to accept the Democratic nomination for president.
And just like at the Republican convention in Milwaukee, Secret Service responsible for everything inside that hardened perimeter. Local police taking the lead for nearly everything else.
Is the Chicago Police Department ready for the DNC?
I've said it for a while. The Chicago Police Department is ready.
Chicago's top cop says there are no specific incredible threats, but to expect a heavy police presence throughout the city.
It's a huge project, but the Chicago Police Department and the city as a whole is used to working towards something this large.
Looming over the convention is the promise of large-scale protests just blocks from the United Center.
This is one of the streets we'll be on, yes.
Despite months of legal battles over the protest area, the largest demonstration is expected to draw more than 20,000 people. Hatem Abudea is one of the lead organizers preparing to voice his opposition to Israel's war in Gaza.
What's the main message for you guys?
Yeah, the main message is that the Democrats who are going to be in that building are complicit in this war against the Palestinian people.
Police Superintendent Larry Snelling says his officers received special training focused on de-escalation and respecting constitutional rights, but warns violent scenes reminiscent of Chicago's 1968 Democratic Convention will not be tolerated.
Do we want to have fights in the streets with people? Absolutely not. But I want to make one thing clear. I want to make this perfectly clear. We need to know the difference between right.
I want to make one thing very clear. If you say mean things about our greatest ally, the most moral democracy on earth, Israel, I will shoot you in the head with a less than lethal round, but I will still shoot you directly in the head. You will lose an eye at the very least. So you better fucking keep that shit to a minimum. I will beanbag you. I will tear gas you. I will use bear mace. I will advocate to deport you. Do not try me on this. I will tase you.
Rioting and protesting.
A city that says it's prepared for any situation. Shaquille Brewster, NBC News, Chicago.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC.
We will ensure as a police department that people who are protesting and exercising their First Amendment rights get the opportunity to do that. We will protect them and we will protect the neighborhoods.
So this is going to be a difficult balance. It's really going to be a story on the outside.
Dude, Giannis was born in Athens. There's a huge struggle to get second generation immigrants to be considered Greek citizens. Yeah, big dog. My disrespect of his name was literally because I do recognize him as a Greek citizen. Like, I don't think you understood the joke I was making. I'm Turkish. So I'm saying, never mind.
Watch, and we'll see what happens with the delegates on the inside, whether or not some of them join the voices that will be on the streets of Chicago. There are huge protests planned for this city. There are hundreds of officers from outside agencies that will join Chicago police in the streets. They got protective gates set up around critical buildings, business owners boarding up storefronts in the area. Gary McCarthy is the former Chicago police superintendent. He left that position in 2015, and 9 years later, he is here to see how his city does. And Gary, good morning to you.
Good morning, Bill.
The protest groups are coming in from all over. It seems that
Giannis Joker or Luka Joker?
they do have a common theme, and that is they're against this war in Gaza as it continues. It's an amazing thing,
what a
by the
question,
way, to see
dude.
at a
Get out of
public
here.
convention, a political convention, I should say, here in Chicago, and you have two significant wars.
You can tell this guy is still a cop. Look at the way he is, bro. You can't get him out of being a cop, bro. Look at him.
Could go sideways at any moment. How is the city getting ready to allow the permitting for the protesters, but also control them so they don't take things over?
I really like the way you phrased that, because during the NATO summit, a woman asked me if we were going to use tear gas to control the crowd. And I said, only if you can explain to me how tear gas controls a crowd, sends a crowd in all different directions. They've been ramping up for months. The key to this is we know that there's people coming here to disrupt things. We know there's bad actors coming. There's even information that they've been funded from people overseas, like Iran and Hezbollah and Hamas. So the fact is, there are going to be confrontations. The best thing that they could do is get them out of the crowd. You don't wade completely into a crowd with horses and things like that. What you do is you extract the bad actors, get them away, and not let everybody else go the same fashion. So it's not about what you've seen in the past with horses and tear gas and nightsticks. It's about getting those folks, getting them out and moving on with the protest.
I was talking to Bill earlier about how there's a lot of comparisons to 1968.
Right.
And to go back and read that history and be reminded of things that I'd forgotten is interesting. But I think that there's such an interesting, different new element, and that is the technology. The ability for people to organize quickly based on a group text message that gets everybody going. How do police departments of modern day deal with that as we look back at this footage from 1968?
We do the same thing. We have the technology. The other thing that we have, not just monitoring social media. Open source, we can do it.
I think one of the funniest parts about this is that, like, the cops were in the wrong in 68. And, like, historically speaking, the cops were, as always, on the wrong side of history. And the anti-war protesters were, as always, on the right side of history, which is always so odd because we're not in 1969. We're in 2024. And it's like, you're literally pointing to a fuck up where you were on the wrong side of history back then, only to basically reiterate that, like, we're going to do the wrong thing again. Yeah, hindsight is 2020 is funny because yeah, exactly. Hindsight is 0-0 in this situation. Why aren't there more protesters outside of Republican events? I don't know. Maybe because it's not a fucking Republican administration. It is a Democrat administration. Democrats are currently, as it stands, entirely responsible for not doing the things that they could be doing to stop Israel's genocide. Okay? The fuck good is it going to do to have protests outside the Republican campaigns? Like, what do you mean? I was wondering if it was zero expectations from Republicans. What do you mean? What? Like, these are Democrat voters protesting a Democratic administration saying that they will not vote for a Democrat.
It's constitutionally protected. But we have camera systems throughout the city that are monitored by the police. So we could...
Also, people do protest Republican shit all the time. It's just that if you're asking, like, why these guys are protesting the Democratic Party, it's because the Democratic Party currently is responsible for the ongoing genocide. That's it.
See where groups are meeting. We could see where protests are going. And that's why one of the things that we did right in 2012 during the NATO summit was we had a ton of cops on bicycles. Mm-hmm. And the bicycles can get in front of the protests and be used as barriers. So that was successful. The extraction technique that we used was successful. We had a plan. We planned for it for months. We equipped. We made sure that everybody had the equipment. And it's important to realize that we didn't come out in riot gear. When I first got my first briefing on the NATO summit, they were talking about coming out in riot gear. And I said, well, do we want to riot? And they said, no. I said...
You were talking to a person who believes that pro-Palestine protests are a Russian psyop? Yeah. Of course, I'm a Russian psyop. And an Iranian one as well. It'd be nice if there was a part of the Republican voting bloc that would be pressuring them to break with Israel. Yeah, there is none, okay? The only Republican voting bloc that would pressure the Republican Party to break with Israel would be the worst Nazis you've ever fucking seen in your entire life. And they're too busy closing their eyes to Trump's unimaginable, unconditional loyalty to the state of Israel to be like, but he's going to deport every Mexican person. So it's fine, I think. He secretly also hates Israel, I promise.
Confrontation begets confrontation. Yeah. So we came out in the checkerboard hats, and when it ramped up, we moved up to the next level with helmets. Then when it got a little bit crazier, that's when we came in with the riot gear.
Here's the problem. Axios, one House Democrat telling Axios they are, quote, very concerned about their personal security, and that, of course, other lawmakers are as well. The difference between now and 1968 is you have significant numbers of outside agitators.
Absolutely.
So if you don't think the Republicans and Trump will do any better for Gaza than the Dems, why disrupt the DNC? Dude, are you fucking stupid? Who is the party in charge right now? Like, the current party in charge is responsible for the genocide in Gaza. The current party in charge is the Democratic Party. That's it. I don't think you get it at all. They're putting pressure on the Democratic Party because the Democratic Party is still very much responsible for the genocide in Gaza. Why are they responsible for it? Well, they can stop it. They can actively stop it all the time.
Are here to cause problems in your town. Last comment.
Exactly. Well, during the George Floyd riots, I want you to picture this. In Wilmington, Delaware, my buddy Bob Tracy, who was the chief there at the time, was locking up people from Eugene, Oregon. Now, if you're from Eugene, Oregon, you're not going to go to Wilmington, Delaware. They come in teams. One guy breaks glass, one guy agitates.
13-year-old Khalil from Gaza just landed in Chicago to receive medical treatment. He lost both legs to Israeli bombing in April and was welcomed by members of the biggest Palestinian community in the U.S. Tens of thousands of Palestinians call this area home. The city of Chicago is also about to host the Democratic National Convention. As the U.S. continues to arm Israel for its assault on Gaza, many from this community feel betrayed by the party they've historically supported.
The entire world is watching. They're going to see the biggest protest for Palestinian rights ever in the history of Chicago.
As the death toll in Gaza rises to over 40,000 killed, we talk to organizers and community members in Chicago's Little Palestine about their message to the Democratic Party and how they might vote this November. We met up with Palestinian American organizer Nida Sahouri. In the community, she's known as Khalto Nida, or Aunt Nida, and she's seen at all the protests.
What's the alternative? The alternative.
But Kamala already supports a ceasefire. So does Joe Biden. He does. What's different? Joe Biden has said he wants a ceasefire. He fucking proposed it. He's the one who proposed the ceasefire. Okay. Where is it? Israel killed 24 people last night during the supposed ceasefire talks happening right now. Do they think Trump will stop the genocide? No, of course they don't think Trump will stop the genocide. There is an election coming up, and they're trying to use that to apply pressure to the party that is in charge. Okay? That's it.
It was just to sit home and just do nothing and just criticize. I believe that if you want to change something, you have to change it with your hands.
People's binary understanding of politics is actually insane. No, this is a binary situation. This is a binary. They just refuse to recognize it. It is deflective. It is deflective, like moral posturing, kind of. What I mean by this is, it's no different than when people who want to defend Israel, but like know better than to openly defend Israel, say things like, oh, it's complicated. Like it's not, but they say it anyway, right? They'll be like, oh, it's fucking complicated. It's like, dude, it's not complicated at all. There's just a genocide going on. And in this situation, it is binary. It's the Democrats say that they want a ceasefire, but are not actively committed to getting a ceasefire. The only way that they can do that, the only way that they can secure a ceasefire is if they actually pressure Israel, okay? And the only way to pressure Israel is by putting weapons transfers on the fucking table for negotiations, which is impossible to contend with. Like, people don't even want to, nobody talks about that. Like, it's a non-starter. It's a fucking non-starter for so many Democrats. That means they are not interested in pushing for a ceasefire at all. They're just simply using it as a talking point. That's it.
Hands.
In May, she ripped up a permit application to protest at the DNC after city police raided an encampment at DePaul University.
We're gonna be protesting no matter what. Thank you.
Nida says that in the 40 years she's lived in Chicago, she's witnessed the Palestinian community grow significantly.
So you just feel like you're in Palestine. That's why it's called Little Palestine. You feel like you're in the West Bank. When my mom came and visited me the first time, she's like, oh, it feels like you're in Ramallah. So you see the culture, you see the stores with Arabic names.
We met with her at her house, which was filled with artifacts from her homeland.
Tatris is very important for Palestinians because every city had its own colors and its own embroidery. So traditionally it was for dresses for women, and now they're just making a lot of different things with it. Now Israel is trying to steal the embroidery. If you go there, they claim it. They're claiming our embroidery now, and that's why we want to try to make sure that we keep it for us.
Nida is the...
What? Please explain how the Democrats can stop the genocide right now. It's this, okay? It's this. This is a telephone, okay? You pick up the telephone and you call up Benjamin Netanyahu and you say, hey, cut it out. No more weapons. Click. Mush mush. And if they still try to fucking act out, okay? Second phone call. Hey, I noticed that you're still acting out. Sanctions. Click. It won't get to that point anyway, though, because it doesn't matter. Didn't Hamas reject the ceasefire like an hour ago? It's breaking news. Why not cover it? Wait, what? I did cover it. I covered it as it directly happened. I covered it for like an hour plus. Why are Democratic Party loyalists that come back into this community after months and months of not being a part of the community come in and immediately chirp me when the answer is it's your fucking fault? Okay? How is this a long-term sub? Let me tell you how. Notice how they fucking stopped talking after a certain period of time? They weren't like a massive supporter anyway. They weren't like big-time chirpers. But notice how there's no fucking activity in the chat until recently. They're the October 7 leavers. Oh. Anyway, I did talk about that. Saying that, oh, it's just Hamas simply refused to bargain with Israel is fucking stupid. If you're completely oblivious to the reality of the ceasefire negotiations, you will obviously be led astray. If you only look at MSNBC and how they're covering it, why did you ban them? No, Fossabot banned them for spamming. I unbanned them. You're wrong. I did not ban them. I literally unbanned them so they can speak. They got automatically Fossabot banned because they were spamming in the chat. They got timed out. Okay. Overall, there is a ceasefire and permanent cessation of hostilities deal that was proposed by Joe Biden. Joe Biden even went as far as to say that this was Israel's own proposal. As a matter of fact, this was the identical proposal. You just made me sign in. Are you aware people watch you offline? Yes, I am. Hamas had brought forward an identical three-phase proposal in February. Biden unveiled it as the Israeli proposal in March. Hamas said yes to it. Israel invaded Rafah, said fuck that proposal. There's actually parts of that proposal we don't agree with. Then Biden kept repeating the lie over and over again that it was actually Hamas holding up the proposal, when in fact it was always Israel that was holding up the proposal. And they openly fucking held up the proposal to a degree where they ended up killing the fucking principal negotiator on the Palestinian side. My brother in Christ, why do people just want to have reasons to despise you? I don't know. Entertainment, I think a lot of people are just like bored, sad, angry. They want like a accessible person that they can fucking yell at. I get it. Anyway, but yeah, does that make sense? Do you understand? 18-month subscriber. It is not Hamas that is holding up the peace talks. It is America cynically holding up a peace talk to stop Iran from retaliating, as is their internationally recognized right to do so after Israel violated their sovereignty. Now, having said that, the current peace talks, the current ceasefire negotiations talks that are ongoing are actually not even supposed to be happening at all, because only one side has said no. Hamas has actually said yes to the last ceasefire conversation that took place. Israel said no over and over and over again, and then fucking turned around and actually killed the principal negotiator. Does that strike you as the type of person who wants to actually deal with a ceasefire? Or is that, in your mind, something you do when you want to continue the war? Because once the war ends, you're probably going to go to jail. So you selfishly want to continue this genocide and keep up this offensive military posture as much as you possibly can. Okay? And America is like your willing ally that is going to do your bidding, which is exactly what's going on.
The Chicago Chair for American Muslims for Palestine, an organization that teaches people about Israel's occupation of the Palestinian territories. She says that while her focus is on a ceasefire in Gaza, the situation is also dire in the West Bank, where her family is from.
Settlers in the West Bank are attacking day in and day out. I just came back. It's bad. Like, it's not safe. Settlers and soldiers can attack any village they want.
Palestinian and Arab American voters have historically voted Democrat, but the party has lost support for arming Israel's war on Gaza.
Democrats, whether it's Biden or Harris, Democrats failed us big times. They dehumanized us. We are demanding that we are looked at as humans.
Palestinian migration to Chicago began in the 1890s, during a time of broader migration from the Middle East to the US. Most of the early Palestinian immigrants.
My views are generally aligned with yours, but you should still want there to be a ceasefire deal and Hamas needs to accept one. No, your views are not generally aligned with mine on this issue if you don't fucking understand that I've been asking for a ceasefire since October 8. Okay? Israel is the party responsible for not coming to terms with a ceasefire. The current proposal that is in table already has a 3-step negotiation. Listen to my fucking words, okay? Listen to the words that are coming out of my fucking mouth instead of chirping like a bad faith dipshit, okay? Listen. The ceasefire proposal, the 3-step ceasefire proposal with 3 different phases. Phase 1 being a ceasefire, phase 2 ending with a permanent cessation of hostilities, and phase 3 being the reconstruction. That proposal was identical to a proposal that Hamas has suggested time and time again, the last one being in February. That proposal was then pushed by the American government. The American government even said that it was Israel's proposal. Israel, as soon as that proposal came out, and it was on a Saturday, if you remember, okay, immediately started going, oh my God, this is not our proposal at all. What the fuck are you talking about? And for months and months and months said that actually this is not the proposal that we want. We want certain things in the fine print to be different so we can continue killing people in Gaza and continue a permanent occupation in Gaza, specifically in the Netzarim corridor and the Philadelphia corridor. Okay? This is completely against the deal. You cannot have a ceasefire and a permanent cessation of hostilities and a removal of troops from the Gaza Strip while simultaneously saying between phase 1 and phase 2, you're going to give us all the hostages and we can continue fucking blowing up the Gaza Strip, which is what Israel has said over and over again. Okay? Israel refuses to say yes to a ceasefire deal as long as the ceasefire is permanent. They do not want a permanent ceasefire. That is not a ceasefire then. Okay? It makes no sense. Why the fuck would Hamas say yes to that? Why the fuck would anybody say yes to that? The entire world is looking at this as a permanent ceasefire. Israel's the only people that don't want a permanent ceasefire, and America keeps being a loyal dog to the Israeli officials and claiming that it's actually Hamas that's refusing to deal with it. And there are people like yourself who just watch mainstream media and like don't actually read the fucking fine print at all and come in here and just regurgitate what the fuck they've heard from the New York Times or Axios or MSNBC or CNN. And you come in here and you go, well, Hamas needs to accept the deal. Yes, dude, they have. Okay, they have. They have accepted a deal already. They want the deal that they accepted, which America put forward. Anthony Blinken himself has openly recognized that the three-phase negotiation, the three-phase ceasefire, was a fucking deal that Hamas presented in February. Anthony Blinken himself recognized this. Okay? The Hamas leadership does not care about the people of Gaza. Man, shut the fuck up, you stupid fucking Hasbara bot, brother. Oh my God. Immediately fucking notice how you are not responding to anything I just said. And as soon as like the reality hits, you just move the talking point down the line. This is why I said, 18-month subscriber was gone, only comes back to fucking chirp now. Who cares about the Palestinian people? Do you think Israel cares about the Palestinian people? Care so much, dude. That's why they've killed 40,000. I care about Palestinians and that they should have freedoms. No, you don't. You don't. If you cared about Palestinians and that they should have freedoms and a place to live safely, you would be advocating to fucking invade Israel right now, okay? With boots on the ground. You'd be like, we need to have an international coalition of soldiers from every fucking Western nation invade Tel Aviv tomorrow so that we can put an end to this fucking apartheid regime. But you don't care about that. You're just saying that as a talking point, thinking that we don't understand exactly what you're trying to do. It is a very idiotic, wishy-washy assessment here. Oh, I want Palestinians to be safe, except Hamas doesn't care about them. That's why Israel keeps pummeling Gaza and killing all the fucking Palestinians. The worst part is when these liberals act like they're acting in the best interest of Palestinians. Yeah, it's just like you don't care. Answer the fucking question. Do you think Israel is an apartheid state or not? Do you recognize what the international organs of justice recognize? Do you recognize what Israeli human rights groups? No, don't fucking do this wishy-washy Netanyahu has to resign bullshit, okay? Shut the fuck up about Benjamin Netanyahu. This is a classic liberal Zionist position. Answer my question. Do you recognize the Israeli apartheid? Yes, there are aspects of an apartheid. No, not an aspect of an apartheid state. That is, again, wishy-washy bullshit. Is it an apartheid or is it not? It's not aspects of an apartheid. It is an apartheid, okay? And it's not only being kept up by Benjamin Netanyahu, okay? It's not Benjamin Netanyahu's coalition. It's not simply just Benjamin Netanyahu. It is an apartheid that the Israeli government has upheld historically. It is an apartheid that the Israeli citizens have upheld historically, okay? There is no, oh, it's aspects of apartheid. Jews and Palestinians should be able to live side by side peacefully. Again, liberal Zionist position. Jews and Palestinians should be able to live side by side peacefully is, again, liberal Zionist position, okay? There is no difference between Jewish people living there and non-Jewish people living there. There is no distinction between these two groups unless you are operating on the principles set forth by a Jewish ethno-state, okay? It is not leadership on both sides that is trash and continues the cycle of violence. It's like saying Nelson Mandela is trash and the ANC is trash, as is the apartheid government of South Africa. No, of course not. You might have an issue with some of the tactics used by the resistance to the South African apartheid. But ultimately, if you were to say such dumb shit, people would laugh at you, okay? You would literally, people would laugh at you. You'd be like, whoa, what do you mean? The ANC is responsible for the apartheid in South Africa? Like, what the fuck do you mean? There is one party that is single-handedly responsible for the continuation of this bloodshed, and that party is the Israeli government, okay? That's it. Comparing Hamas to the ANC is ridiculous. Why would it be ridiculous? Do you have any real argument to say that Hamas has any consideration for Palestinian life? Yes, I do. They are not fucking born out of a random outside group, dumbass. They are Palestinians. They are the fucking orphan children of Palestine. What the fuck do you mean? Any real argument that they don't have any consideration for the Palestinian life? They're Palestinian. What the fuck are you talking about? They are the only game in town in terms of resistance against the Israeli apartheid. That's it. What do you mean? Comparing Hamas to the ANC is not ridiculous. Ideologically, they might not be committed to like some kind of socialist movement, but ultimately they are resisting a colonial occupation, okay? as was the ANC back then. Like, who do you think is fucking murking all these? Who do you think is murking all these Palestinians? You think it's Hamas? You think like you legitimately think like Hamas is just like moving up the Palestinians and just like, you know, recreating like bombing conditions or something and like executing them and then being like, oh, Israel did this? Or do you think Israel is actually using American weapons? Every one of which is accountable, by the way. Like, we can account for every single one. Why is comparing Hamas to the ANC ridiculous? You still haven't mentioned it. You still haven't updated me on this. Is it because one is Muslim, one is like fundamentalist? Do you think their like ideological worldview it should be factored into whether their cause is just or not? Because it's not like they're operating on the boundaries of like, you know, hating Jewish people or whatever in the same way that like Israel claims it is, but it's not the case. Shatters in October. Yes, Hamas has conducted terrorism on its own people. It's well documented. Dude, so has the ANC. What the fuck are you talking about? What do you think? What do you think the practice of necklacing is? Again, what do you think the practice of necklacing is? What do you think that was? Collaborators would literally get fucking tires put on their necks and burned on fire. Okay? Collaborators with the apartheid government. Does that change the dynamic for you? Do you think black people in South Africa deserve to live under an apartheid occupation because of the actions of the resistance groups against said occupation? Okay? Answer my question. Because ultimately, that is all you're stating. Ultimately, what you're saying, of course not. Then, okay, there you go. Then shut the fuck up about Hamas. That's it. Because if Israel wants Hamas to perish, if Israel wants Hamas to have no more political sway, then Israel has all the power to do so. Not by violent military action, not by denying Palestinians all humanity, okay? But by doing the exact opposite. Hamas would cease to exist if there was no apartheid, because Hamas is simply Palestinian resistance by any other name, okay? It used to be the PLO, and I'm sure you'd be chirping about the PLO in a similar capacity if it was happening right now, okay? That's it. That's all this is. Hamas itself was an Islamic charity originally when it was first first put together. Yeah. Why they are counter-revolutionary and are no help to... What? What do you mean counter-revolutionary? What are you talking about? Counter-revolutionary? Brother, you don't know anything about Palestinian resistance groups, so there's no reason to have this conversation with you. You should probably go back to reading a little bit, okay? Hamas has worked side by side with DFLP, Maoist groups in fucking Palestine, PFLP, Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, Democratic Front for the Liberation of Palestine. Hamas and all of the other Palestinian resistance groups are actually currently unified. There was a literal fucking deal that was put together in China 2 weeks ago, as a matter of fact, that completely unified even the Palestinian Authority, or Fatah at the very least, with Hamas and all other Palestinian resistance groups. This has nothing to do with their ideological positioning. Hamas itself has actually advocated to release Fatah members and members of the DFLP and PFLP. So you're absolutely wrong. October 7 wasn't just conducted by Hamas. It was led by Hamas for sure, but every single member of the Palestinian resistance groups were a part of it. So you're just using counter-revolutionary as a fucking talking point here. It's simply just a word that you threw out there to make it seem like you only care about the revolutionary Marxist principles that a potential group has. Okay? It's just a buzzword for you. There is one unifying principle for every Palestinian resistance group, which is the end of the apartheid, okay? The end of the genocide and the end of the apartheid. That's it. It doesn't matter what other worldview they have. That's the one thing that they care about, because understandably, that's the most significant thing that is killing them right now, which is the Israeli government. Also, I would love to hear what you meant when you said Hamas has conducted terrorism on its own people. It's well documented. Because I feel like you just dropped that in there. But yeah, Americans said the same shit about the Viet Cong. The British said the same shit about the IRA. And the apartheid government said the same shit about the ANC. They said it about the Algerian, of the FLN as well. Notice how every single one of those groups, the terrorists were the good guys. Every single one of those groups, the terrorists that were declared terrorists, that were declared to be in the wrong, were actually ultimately the good guys after all. People that you probably read about now and you turn around and go, man, these guys are so sick. They're so cool. They're so revolutionary. The IRA were not good guys? Okay, bro. Sure. Guarantee they aren't even Irish? Yeah, probably. Yeah, no shit. Anyway.
Were men who would come to work in the US, traveling back and forth between Chicago and Palestine. But when that became more difficult in the 1930s and 40s, they started buying property and opening shops. After the 1948 Nakba, where Zionist militias forced over 750,000 Palestinians from their homes, the families of the men who had come to Chicago made their way to the US too.
When I grew up in the 70s and 80s, the vast majority of the Palestinian community lived in Southwest Chicago proper.
Hatem Abu Daya is an organizer with the U.S. Palestinian Community Network.
But in the last 20 years or so, they've really all moved out to the southwest suburbs.
Hatem says the Palestinian community moved to the suburb of Bridgeview, Illinois, and created Little Palestine.
We were able to buy a lot of property, be able to buy businesses, able to buy homes, establish like a real hub.
Would any of these problems in the Middle East exist if there was no religion? Yeah, no shit, of course it would. Half of the struggles that I just mentioned, every single struggle that I mentioned were not fought on the boundaries of religion, okay? It's never about religion. Religion is just a galvanizing principle on top of it. It's ultimately always about land. It's always about natural resources. That is all this is, okay? It's so silly. Anyway, it's as silly as thinking that there is no 3-minute ad break at the top of the hour. War is always about resources, distribution of resources, distribution of power. Religion is simply a tool to galvanize people, to get people to be on board with your cause. That's all it is.
Here.
Now, around 85,000 Palestinians are estimated to live in the Chicago metro area, the largest Palestinian community in the country. Hatem is also a spokesperson for the Coalition to March on the DNC, an affiliation of at least 150 organizations planning to protest Israel's ongoing genocide.
We have 3 main demands. One is end USA to Israel, stop the genocide, and stand with and free Palestine. Those are the broad demands. But the goals are for the world to see that Palestine has enormous support.
Even though Joe Biden is no longer the Democratic candidate, the coalition says it has the same demands for Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris is a part of this administration. She's in the leadership of the administration. These policies are her policies. And we haven't seen anything or heard anything from her to believe that she's going to have a different position.
Hatem says while some may fear a second Trump presidency, his focus is on the DNC because Democrats are the ones in power.
If the Republicans were in party and Trump was already the president and this genocide was going on, then that would have been the event of the season. And the tens of thousands would have been going there. But the reason they're here is because the Democrats are in power, because Biden is the one who's complicit, and Kamala Harris and Blinken, all of the top Democrats in this country are responsible. They are complicit in the genocide, they have blood on their hands, and they're the ones that allow it to happen.
But this isn't the first time anti-war demonstrators have protested a DNC hosted in Chicago. In 1968, an estimated 10,000 people protested the Vietnam War at the convention. Chicago police injured and arrested hundreds. While protesters were being rounded up by the police, the crowds chanted, "The whole world is watching."
This is the event of the season. The entire world is watching. They're going to see the biggest protest for Palestinian rights ever in the history of Chicago.
A week before the 2024 DNC, we found this art and rhythm build where organizers were practicing chants and building drums.
Can you tell us what you're doing here today?
Creating ruckus for the DNC.
So we came together tonight to make instruments, decorate them, and then, yeah, get ready to bring the rhythm with our contingent.
Well, the truth is, the Democrats have always sold themselves as, you know, the party of the working class, and they never have represented us. We know Kamala isn't going to represent the working class. She's proven it with her track record. So just because it's a brown face in a high place, it doesn't mean anything to us.
I've seen too many dead children, broken up families to ever think about checking a box near the Democratic Party on the ballot.
Corporate Democrats or corporate Republicans are one and the same. They are both funded by AIPAC lobbies, corporations. They really don't represent the American voice.
We'll continue to march, organize, and raise hell until we get an arms embargo and a permanent ceasefire.
Even those within the Democratic Party have criticized the administration.
The Biden administration absolutely let us down by unconditionally supporting Israel's genocide.
Abdel Nasser Rashid is Illinois' first ever Palestinian American state representative. He grew up in Little Palestine.
What you see in Little Palestine is a real community cohesion. People know each other, it is tight-knit, people care about each other, people look out for each other.
Abdel Nasser says he believes most Americans want the U.S. to act differently.
The Biden administration has enacted policies that go against what the average American wants. The average American wants us to use our tax dollars to provide better health care, to provide affordable housing, to tackle climate change, not to send more bombs, more US-made weapons to Israel that then get dropped on civilians throughout Gaza.
Is it annoying having to wait to have your views be vindicated all the time? I'd rather have it be vindicated down the line than not at all. So as much as it is annoying, it still ultimately doesn't matter. I just want people to come to terms with the reality. That's all I care about. I want people to change their perspectives. I want people to advocate for the right things, and they might do it, they might do it later down the line, but it doesn't matter. Ultimately, it's important that they did that.
But he says that the convention and a new candidate might be an opportunity for change.
I think the fact that President Biden withdrew from the race and now Vice President Harris is the Democratic nominee gives us an opening, gives her an opening to truly engage with young people, with people of color, with progressives across the country, not to mention, of course, the Arab and Muslim community who want to see a transformational change, a fundamental break from the policies of our government that have supported genocide.
For the residents of Little Palestine, the first step a Kamala Harris administration must take is straightforward.
To start with, we need to stop funding the genocide. We need to cease fire, and we need to feed the people in Gaza.
But organizers say they're seeing a change in how Israel's occupation of Palestinians is viewed by the world.
People recognize it's not just an issue of stop killing Palestinians.
You don't know how many people come to hate on you and stay by the end of it, I hope.
It's end the occupation and end the colonization and allow Palestinians to return to their homes. And that's the only way that you can bring peace to the entire region.
Anyway, all right, everybody, I gotta go. I gotta get ready to fly out. I'll be in Chicago. Tomorrow. You already know. Okay.